Welcome to FedScoop TV. I'm Wyatt Cash, and we're here today at the Public Sector Innovation Summit. And our guest is John Skinner, Senior Vice President of Business Development with HITRUST. Welcome to the program.
Thank you, Wyatt.
We're talking about innovation today, and I'd like to start off by just getting your take on what you think innovation really means in the context of the public sector, especially since it's a word that's often used very loosely around the world today.
So I often get that question from the students at Cornell University. I help teach a class there in innovation, and I tell them, well, literally, if you use the Latin roots for innovation, it literally means the introduction of something new. But I go on to point out that something new is not good enough. It actually has to be introduced into the marketplace where it can be used by others before it can really be considered an innovation. So that's sort of one thing. The other thing I help them try to understand is that the process of innovation need not be done alone. In fact, there is a collaboration model called open innovation that has been used for years by companies like Intel and VMware and others, where actually combining the innovations of one company with the innovations of the other can actually accelerate the diffusion of that innovation into the marketplace where it can be used. And so I happen to work at a company that is actually part owned by VMware and Intel, and we do joint R&D with them to bring our respective technologies together to enable new capabilities such as cloud security that could not be done if each of us was trying to do it by ourselves.
Sounds like a great platform to accelerate innovation then. Well, next I'd like to ask you, we hear a lot as well at this conference about cloud and mobility, how they are enabling agencies and organizations to drive efficiency and effectiveness. How are you seeing that taking root and also saving agencies money as well?
Well, so the public sector, as we heard this morning from some of the speakers, were some of the earliest adopters of cloud technologies. However, the commercial sector perhaps has been more aggressive in actually utilizing them to achieve cost savings. And so I think the next phase of innovation in the public sector is to combine cloud technologies, mobile technologies, together with security technologies to actually reduce operating costs. And one example of that is the work that HITRUST, Intel, and VMware have done with the U.S. Army, where some of their data centers are on a mission that is shared with other coalition partner countries. And previously, the Army would have to allocate a separate physically isolated data center to each coalition partner country, not taking full advantage of the shareable capabilities of cloud technology. And so what we've been able to do, again, in partnership with the Army, with Intel and VMware, together with HITRUST, is enable all of the hardware in these data centers to become shareable, but also enable what's called secure multi-tenancy, which is the ability to make the hardware shareable, but enable each tenant, each individual country, for example, to have its own isolated environment, which is to secure their users, their applications, and their data, and isolate it in a way where it cannot be shared with another tenant. So these are new technologies that are actually enabling cost savings, in this case enabling the reduction in the number of data centers necessary to support the mission, which dramatically reduces operating expense.
That's a great example. I'd like to pick up the thread of security in a little bit further. So on one hand, these technologies kind of allow for greater security, but they're also introducing more complexity. And I'm wondering, do you see that these more sophisticated inputs that agencies are using, how in effect do you see agencies approaching security from an architecture standpoint to make sure that all of this is being done more securely?
Right, so our recommendation to agencies is as they are embarking on new cloud projects or new mobility projects, to make sure that those cloud environments are up-armored from the beginning, which is that the security technology is built into the fabric of the cloud rather than bolted on later, where it can be more expensive and less effective. So we're seeing agencies, as they are creating new cloud architectures, new cloud environments, are bringing in the security officer and the security architects at the beginning to make sure that some of the cost savings and security capabilities are fully capitalized by building them into the underlying infrastructure. And so VMware's Pat Gelsinger spoke about some of that this morning.
Right, we heard that.
The ability to build some of the security into the cloud architecture at the beginning is really the key to make the security useful, but also to enable the kinds of multi-tenant shareable infrastructure cost savings that I talked about.
Well, lastly, what can we expect next as agencies modernize their infrastructures, would you say?
Yeah, so we're working in partnership not only with Intel and VMware and the agencies themselves, but one agency in particular, which is the U.S. National Institute of Standards and Technologies. They're the ones that have published the NIST cybersecurity framework. And then we're doing joint R&D with NIST, again, together with Intel and VMware, to build upon that framework to create much more security-ready clouds. And one example of that would be the work we've done with them around what's called trusted geolocation in the cloud. And so we recently completed a joint R&D project with NIST scientists, HITRUST engineers, Intel engineers, and NIST has published a document that describes how to build a highly secure but also very cost-effective virtualized data center or cloud environment. So again, I think these sort of public and private partnerships, again, private sector companies like HITRUST and Intel collaborating with NIST and the government to do experiments and to do proof of concepts and then to develop solutions which are then documented, I think is the next phase of innovation that is available to agencies that are willing to take the NIST guidance.
Well, that sounds like a very productive way to move forward on that. Well, John, thank you so much for coming by, sharing some of your insights on innovation in the public sector. I appreciate you chatting with us.
Thanks, Wyatt.
Look for more of our coverage at fedscoop.com. I'm your host, Wyatt Cash. Thanks for watching.